Hello, everybody. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Starkey Forum Said. My name is Samantha. Hello, internet friends and family. You guys know the routine. Please hit the like button, drop over in comments. Tell me who you are, where you are watching from. So I titled this video in a way that I knew that it would grab your attention. I'm going to admit that. I have no problem doing it. I titled this video, Is Trump Part of Deep State and the COG Plan Explained? So what is COG? COG is continuity of government. Yesterday, we heard Pete Hegseth, say that the military helicopter that was flying over DC was actually practicing continuity of government. Now, I'm going to tell you something that most people never will because they're afraid they'll lose your views, your subscriptions, or even your likes. I personally believe there are two things that you could get from everything I'm fixing to show you. You either can believe the nonsense that Trump is part of the deep state, that he's one of the bad guys, or you can look at the facts that I'm fixing to lay out for you. 100%, start to finish. I'm going to lay it out for you in a way that you could not confuse it. That Trump is doing everything he can to stop the deep state. He is trying to dismantle continuity of government. Now, a lot of you probably have never heard what continuity of government actually is. So I think what we should do, if you'll give me 20 minutes, is walk you through what continuity of government actually is. What does it mean for you and I? Where does it come from? And allow me to explain to you that 100% continuity of government is a deep state plan. Essentially, what continuity of government means is that in the event of biological warfare, nuclear warfare, terrorism, assassination, we lose both our president and our vice president, part of our Senate, part of our Congress, part of our government. The politicians in Washington, D.C. have a safe place to go, but you and I do not. The brightest and the most wealthy have safe places to go, but you and I do not. Continuity of government was put in place by a shadow government to take control by putting in an unelected president into the seat of power if anything was to happen like war. And a large group of our government was destroyed. Do you want to know what arm of the federal government is mainly in control of the COG plan? FEMA. Now I'm going to prove everything that I just said to you as fast as I can in the next 15 minutes. If you'll sit still and listen to me, I'll answer every question running through your mind. But I believe with my entire heart that President Donald J. Trump knows all of this about the continuity of government. He has been trying to tell the American people that they are not after him, they're after us. That they don't want to shut him up, they want to shut us up. That FEMA and the federal government is too big, it's out of control. Trust him to do what he said he would do. And yet, I'm seeing social media influencers across all platforms bringing up this nonsense of Donald J. Trump is deep state. He's one of them. Do we understand everything he's doing? No, because you and I don't know half of it. Am I happy about the research into mRNA vaccines? No. Am I down with all the AI infrastructure and getting away from actual money? No. But I can overlook all of that when I realize what Donald Trump is actually trying to do for the ungrateful majority. And let's be true, that is how they behave. So I'm going to show you first, out of Donald Trump's mouth, what he wants to do with FEMA. Now, this is very important, okay? So I really want you guys to listen in.
FEMA has been a very big disappointment. They cost a tremendous amount of money.
Let me get it. There it is.
It's very bureaucratic, and it's very slow. I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good.
Okay, FEMA's not good.
I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and whether it's a Democrat
now
or
listen
Republican
carefully.
Governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster. And you could go back a long way. You could go back to Louisiana. You could go back to some of the things that took place in Texas. It turns out to be the state that ends up doing the work. It just complicates it. I think we're going to recommend that FEMA go away.
Sir, can you just talk about how long you think it might take to get rid of FEMA? What's the timeline on that? We're going to roll it back.
Yeah, I would say, look, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really thinking about FEMA right now here. I'm thinking about Michael Watley, and I'm thinking about the 3 Congress people that you just heard from, and also the other people in Congress, and they'll be working with the governor.
Okay.
We'll also be signing an executive order.
One of the first things he said when he came into government was, I want to get rid of FEMA. Why? FEMA is part of the COG plan. FEMA is an essential part of the continuity of government. We all know they've been building FEMA camps all over the United States. We saw it with our own eyes in North Carolina. I did a very long video. I will put it in community for the ones who've not seen it. For later, you can go watch it. A few months ago, breaking down the request for people to build FEMA camps and what they were supposedly going to be for. But why and how do I know that it is FEMA that is the real linchpin, right? Are you aware of the COG program? Let's explain it further.
He installed Louis Giuffrida as head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Giuffrida was an old cold warrior from Reagan's California days, whose specialty was suppression of unrest and dissent. Giuffrida, North, and George Bush began to turn FEMA into an instrument of domestic anti-terrorism.
You're dealing with a group of people in the Reagan administration who equated political dissent with treason, and who cannot differentiate between emergency procedures, which I think everyone agrees are necessary, and suppressing political dissent. And with North and Poindexter and Casey, you had a group of people who saw Americans who disagree with them as the enemy.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
And try tragically, the only member who got close was Jack Brooks, and he was stopped by the chairman.
It'll clear up. Give it a
In the
second.
United States of America, there is a hidden government about which you know nothing.
It was the most highly classified and largest program of its type that I had ever become involved in.
In the United States federal government, there is a super secret agency which controls this shadow government. Its name is so secret, it has never been made public before this broadcast. The federal agency directing the hidden government is so classified that most of the United States elected officials are unaware of its existence.
If you go to members of Congress, if you go to key staffers on armed services or the intelligence committees, and you ask them about the COG program, they often look at you with a blank face.
That particular program, without going into a lot of details, was completely immune from oversight. There was no oversight, period.
Within this hidden government program, there are charges of fraud, abuse, cover-up, which have never reached the public. Until now.
In covering up errors, mistakes, inefficiency, and protecting one's own position, the program was jeopardized.
Within the hidden government, there is a secret plan which could make an unelected official outside the legal line of succession President of the United States.
There it is. In this plan, there are protocols that they will elect, they, as in the secret government, the cabal, the elites, the globalists, whoever they are, they will make their choice become president. They will put someone in the position without following the Constitution of the United States. Continuity of government is the rejection of the Constitution of the United States. Now,
Mistakes, inefficiency, and protecting one's own position, the program was jeopardized.
Within the hidden government, there is a secret plan which could make an unelected official outside the legal line of succession President of the United States. If a nuclear war begins.
These individuals would have the right to virtually appoint a new government.
Most Americans would agree that it would be prudent to have a plan to provide for the continuity of government and the rule of law in case of a devastating terrorist attack or natural disaster. A plan that provides for the cooperation, the coordination, and continued functioning of all three branches of the government. The Bush administration tells us they have such a plan. They introduced a little sketchy public version that's clearly inadequate and doesn't really tell us what they have in mind. But they said, don't worry, there's a detailed classified version. But now they've denied the entire Homeland Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government. They say, trust us. Trust us, the people who brought us Katrina, to be competent in face of a disaster. Trust us, the people who brought us warrantless wiretapping and other excesses eroding our civil liberties. Trust us. Maybe the plan just really doesn't exist, and that's why they won't show it to them.
And ever since the Cold War, the federal government has had an elaborate plan to keep the government running if the Soviets ever attacked Washington. Over a year ago, I spoke with then President Clinton's counterterrorism czar, Dick Clark, who has the same job today under President Bush. He told us that when the Cold War ended, they decided to hold on to that plan to keep the government running.
Okay, so yes, you guys are starting to put it together. The helicopter that went down was on a practice run for continuity of government. But on whose orders? Not Trump's. No. In fact, Trump, and I heard this, and I believe my source, was supposed to have been on Air Force One the same time that helicopter hit that plane. In fact, it wasn't Air Force One, it was the Doomsday plane, was supposed to be leaving and coming to get him. He was supposed to be on the Doomsday plane, which is why it went ahead and took off and circled where the helicopter went down and then landed at the base. Maybe they were trying to put the continuity of government, make it happen. My husband asked me tonight very seriously, Samantha, I believe that they are going to try to eliminate him again. I said, yes, they are. I think they've probably tried several times since the last time. He said, honey, if something happens to Trump, what do you think will happen? I said, America will be in a civil war within the first day, but it won't be necessarily left against right or illegal against citizen. It will be those who support the shadow government against people like you and I. Useless eaters. The carbon they want to reduce. However you want to word it. How bad is it? Excuse his language, by the way.
What a fucked up deal it is for us that there's this thing called the continuity of government, right? So, for those who don't know, the continuity of government is this plan our government has to where if they make things so fucking bad in the world, they have a place to run and hide. That's basically in a nutshell what it is. It's something like out of a fucking James Bond or, you know, Austin Powers movie, like Dr. Evil. Sitting in his fucking lair, right? So our government has these gigantic installations underground, like basically fallout shelters, right? But these are underground cities. I mean, they are packed to the gills with supplies, food, water, everything you could need. Everything the city has, underground railroads, all kinds of stuff. And these are places for the ruling elite, you know, the higher echelons of our government to run to once they do something like start, I don't know, maybe a nuclear fucking holocaust, right? If you think it's going to be anything like Deep Impact, Susie, Jimmy, get in here. They haven't closed the doors yet. No, they're not going to let a single fucking one of us in there, right? Not a one. Jimmy and Susan would be shot fucking dead running towards it. I'm telling you. These places are specifically designed for our government to run away, which they convince us is a good thing, right? They're like, you know, we've got to maintain continuity of government. All of you peasants can die, but as long as we stay alive, America will continue on, right? Am I the only one that fucking thinks of this shit? I can't be. I can't be the only one that sits back and goes, no, that's fucking bullshit, dude, because you got...
Yeah, his language was harsh, but I'm going to tell you guys now, I can't control the people's language, but I can consent to what he is saying. So I recently did a video. Thank you, Tel Aviv. You know, I mean, I really can't. People curse, guys. We live in 2025. If you turn that TV on, you're not getting cursing. All right. Right. You're going to have to thicken your skin. We're dealing with a bunch of people living in the world, but it doesn't mean anything he said wasn't actually true. So I did a video for you guys not very long ago. You're right. Thank you, Jennifer. We all are adults. I don't allow children on the show. They should not be on this show unless I say, hey, guys, it's kid friendly. Show your kids this. Don't let your kids watch. They don't need to be worried about this nonsense. That's what we're here for. Okay, so I'm going to get to that, Justice. All right, so I did a video about sounds coming from underground, unexplained sounds under the earth. And I showed you definitive proof that there are entire cities built underneath the ground, and the machinery being used to build these high-speed rails and magnetic maglev, where it's magnetic levitation, all of that. That's all in the works across the United States, across and under to the pond to Europe, so they can connect the whole world going underwater in magnetic levitation. That is a fact. It's not a feeling. I've showed you guys this systematically. Are you going underwater?
I'm going underwater.
Going underwater. So I've been showing you guys videos of whatever the Holy Spirit's been telling me to show you. I had no idea that he would connect it all with continuity of government. I had no idea. I didn't even know what that was until Pete said it. And I'm like, what is continuity of government? Y'all know how my brain works. I'm like, what is this? What is he talking about? I need to know. Sam must know. I love to learn. So I'm bringing you guys with me. All right. So I just saw somebody asked, technocrats rule the day. COG cannot be dismantled. Of course, COG can be dismantled. That is the reality of removing FEMA. That's the first step in the destruction of COG. Okay? It's the first step in destroying what we have become, what this beautiful country has become. All right? But I'm going to show you that during they were so excited with COVID. I wish that I'd have been sober during COVID at the beginning, because I think that I would have really enjoyed listening to these people really put themselves in the holes that they do, because they tell on themselves. So here we go.
Annual retraining of night flights on a standard corridor for a continuity of government mission. The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. I think the president is right.
I'm sure, just like me, many of you were immediately wondering what he meant by continuity of government.
I did.
According to FEMA, continuity of government is a coordinated effort within each of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches to ensure that governance and essential functions continue to be performed before, during, and after an emergency. Now, in the beginning, this principle was established to keep the government running in case of a nuclear war. This, however, changed over the years, and I'll show you how some shadow agencies now use this strategic principle to pretty much control everything we see and do. And it all starts with this article from 2020, which states, exclusive, inside the military's top secret plans if the pandemic cripples the government. In this article, Newsweek reported, huge swaths of the executive branch or even Congress and the Supreme Court could also be disabled, forcing the implementation of continuity of government plans that include evacuating Washington and devolving leadership to second-tier officials in remote and quarantined locations. The article also revealed that various plans named Octagon, Freejack, and Zodiac were already in place, which would allow military commanders to be placed in control around America. Now, this already sounds pretty scary and sketchy, but things get even worse when you realize what people at Newsweek were too scared to report. In another article written by Whitney Webb, you'll really find out the scary scope of the continuity of government program. In the article, she mentions how the Miami Herald revealed in 1987 that the COG programs of that era were deeply connected to a virtual parallel government outside the traditional cabinet departments and agencies that began operating almost from the day Reagan took office.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster?
Mr. Chairman.
I believe the question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution, and I was deeply concerned about it.
Suspend
and wondered if that was the area in which he had worked.
the Constitution.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, I'm certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
She basically marks the late 80s as the time when this shadow government truly took form. She also mentions how in 2008, a reporter named Chris Ketchum revealed insider information in an article. He stated that the government of the United States had a database of so-called unfriendly Americans, and it contained 8 million names. Even scarier is the fact that according to Ketchum, in the event COG is implemented, these individuals could be subject to anything ranging from heightened surveillance and tracking to direct questioning and possibly even detention. I guess I'm starting to realize why Gitmo is once again in the news.
As the Trump administration begins its first 100 days in office, we are at Guantanamo Bay and we'll be reporting from here at Camp Justice. We'll be inside the courtrooms. We'll have updates on the status of the military trials as well as the detention camps. This new administration is going to have to make some hard choices about the future of this operation.
Well, if you know Miss Harris, you can be damn sure she's telling us that President Trump needs to do something about these clandestine detention camps. As for why I think that helicopter crash reeks of a COG false flag, here's why. We already know the doomsday plane was right there in the sky at the time of this crash. And surprisingly, our president was not on it, even though he was supposed to be. Then we get this post from President Trump, which states, the Black Hawk helicopter was flying too high by a lot. It was far...
Are you tired of bribing your free?
So, there you go. The doomsday plane was coming to get our president. I believe this Black Hawk helicopter, they're saying there were 3 pilots on it, but I told you guys before, we have autonomous flight. We have AI. Even if you have people in the plane can still fly itself. So, I'm not saying these military even knew that somebody was going to hijack the Black Hawk and aim it at what they thought might have been the president. Now, I'm just saying, I believe that Gitmo, you're going to be seeing a lot of people. I don't even think you and I will ever be told the amount of federal employees that get grabbed up and taken to Gitmo and tried for treason against America. We probably won't ever know. First off, virus vanquisher. I think you misunderstood what I said. Okay, so here's the thing, folks. We have COG in place, and we have had it in place since the 60s. We saw it reemerge and really begin to take shape, splitting our government into the one based on the Constitution, and then the one in preparation to take control if something was to happen in this country. Okay? Then 9/11 happened, right? You guys remember 9/11? Of course you do.
Had, I suppose you could call it an epiphany later that afternoon when I saw that United 93 had crashed in Pennsylvania. It was clear that plane had left 45 minutes late from Newark. So the passengers knew, unlike the other planes, that this was not a standard hijacking, that it was a suicide mission. And I thought instantly that plane was headed for the Capitol Dome. The Capitol is the symbol of American democracy and freedom, Statue of Freedom on the top. And I knew from many decades that it was morning business in Congress. The plane would otherwise have hit around 9:30 or 10 o'clock, right around the same time as the other plane hit the Pentagon. And a fully loaded plane with jet fuel hitting the cast iron dome would have meant molten cast iron, chunks of concrete, and other debris coming down on a Capitol probably filled with members, with a lot of others. It was a beautiful day outside.
Listen.
Either doing press conferences, meeting with constituents, or doing other things. And I thought, we could be without a House of Representatives for months, because if there were more than a majority of the members dead or missing, there's no quorum to do official business, and you can only replace members of the House by special election, which takes months if there's only one, and would take even longer. A few days later, I wrote a piece about this in a column I did back then for Roll Call, the newspaper of Capitol Hill. And I got contacted by Brian Baird, a Democratic congressman from the state of Washington, who in the chaos had fled the Capitol and had the same feeling. The anthrax scare hit, and we realized it wasn't just the possibility of a plane hitting, but for the Senate, if you had a large number of members, remember that anthrax that had been a dedicated, sophisticated terrorist attack would have gotten into the ventilation system. We might have had 60 senators on ventilators.
Do you guys remember when I broke the news to y'all about the operation? It was in one of my MK Ultra videos. I'm telling y'all, the Lord has been preparing me for this moment. The videos I was doing were covering so many off the wall topics. I didn't know why the Lord was showing it to me, but he's like, do a video on this, dig into this. And I'm like, why am I learning about this? Back in the 60s, the CIA went to the Pentagon, and I want you to research this on your own because it's true, and released a bacteria that was supposedly not dangerous into the Pentagon to see how easy it would be for a terrorist attack to happen in the Pentagon. Okay? Now, I showed that to y'all. Now, listen to him. This is in 2000 when COVID's going on. This recording happened.
For months, and you couldn't replace them, meaning no Senate. So I wrote another piece and then got contacted by Lloyd Cutler, who had been the counsel to two presidents, saying we need to do something about this. And together we created a commission, co-chaired by Cutler and the former Republican whip in the Senate, Alan Simpson. We filled it with people who had been in the cabinet, who had been in Congress, scholars and others. And we set about looking at what would happen if we lost for any length of time one of our branches of government. Of course, if the Congress couldn't meet for months, then at the worst possible time, we would have the equivalent of martial law. Not a very good thing to have happen. If we didn't have a Supreme Court, and there were all kinds of questions about the succession of the president, for example, you might have 14 courts of appeals popping up, each issuing different declarations, and no easy way to resolve it. And of course, there were major issues about presidential succession as well.
I bet there were.
Matt, that as we went about this, the worst nightmare scenario that we could think of was, what if there were, say, a suitcase nuclear bomb at a presidential inaugural?
Right there.
All the leaders in Congress, all the former presidents, the members themselves, the Supreme Court justices there on the west front of the Capitol. And we have most of the cabinet who have ostensibly filled out letters of resignation as of noon on that day, but not necessarily anybody confirmed. And if they were confirmed, they would be there. So you might have a real fog of war.
So think about Trump's inauguration. Everything was different. It's never been like it was this time. He changed the venue. He reduced the amount of people. He was sworn in behind closed doors before he came out and was sworn in again. What? You guys, Trump is not deep state. He is an amazing person, an amazing president. He knows what is happening, and he's doing everything he can to save this country. Now, let me fast forward. This guy's a little boring. I know, but you need to know this history. This is why people get things confused. Oh, what? Tony already went and silence them. I do read the comments. I can't answer everything, but trust and believe. If I catch a troll, I'm deleting everything you just said. It's my channel. Don't like it? Go find something else to watch, because I rule this little world.
Crises or disasters occur, almost nothing got done. Once the immediate crisis was passed, The excuse that we got from congressional leaders, from the president, George W. Bush at the time, and his vice president, Dick Cheney, was we've got so many things to do. We're just not going to tackle this. And another part of it, frankly, was kind of superstition. The same reason smart people don't get wills executed, even when they're traveling together and there are real questions, for example, about the custody of children. Because you fear that if you do this, it might increase the chances that something bad will happen. And it also raises very difficult questions that you don't necessarily feel like raising. But it leaves you in jeopardy, and that's where we are.
Thank you very much. Now, turning briefly to each branch of government, I'd like to start with Professor Huck in the executive branch. Professor, can you give us an overview of the 25th Amendment, presidential succession, and whether the executive branch is prepared for continuity of government?
I wanted to start by thanking Matthew and the council for setting this event up and inviting me. The law of presidential succession is set out both in the main body of the Constitution and the 25th Amendment, and further in a statute that Congress enacted in 1948. It's not the first such presidential succession statute. One of those has existed since the 1790s, but it's the one in force now. As a first order matter, the president can be removed out of the ordinary circumstance of an election that terminates his or her term in office through three different mechanisms: through impeachment, through a finding pursuant to the 25th Amendment of incapacity, and through, as has happened on multiple occasions in American history, through death. Once one of those irregular forms of presidential term ending has happened, there is a number of further steps that the Constitution sets forth and then the law of presidential succession describes.
Okay. I suppose you could call it an epiphany.
Let me show you guys the rest of this. This is so important. You've got to hear this.
Taken any steps in the past year or so, and specifically in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, to better ensure continuity of government during a public health emergency? You mentioned the House, but are other branches of government, especially sort of living in this digital age and so many people are working from home, taking similar steps to better ensure that continuity of government?
Well, I would say, and Susan can follow, the Supreme Court, of course, moved to have its oral arguments done remotely. I'm more concerned, I would say, about the Supreme Court than Susan is, because we could easily have a situation, especially as many of them are older, where we could fall below that statutory quorum requirement. And if you don't have a president in place, for example, or a Senate in place, you can do a recess appointment, but you could really have a problem. What our commission recommended there, I should add, is an emergency interim court of appeals consisting of any remaining Supreme Court justices and the chief judges of the 14 appeals courts, who are, of course, spread around the country, just until you could get back to a point where you had that quorum requirement met. But other than having remote meeting, we didn't have anything else done for the court. And we know, I would add, that we have a big problem with the 25th Amendment to the Constitution, which sets in place all of these practices if the vice president and half the cabinet deem the president incapable of serving for a period of time.
Should have done it with Biden.
If the president himself says, I'm going to be under anesthesia, so I'm going to designate the vice president. But if a president and vice president are both incapacitated, there is no provision in place. The Presidential Succession Act of 1947 doesn't cover incapacitation, only vacancies. And
so what does that mean? They have been steady since 2020 working on this, turning in studies, deciding who's going to take over this country. What unelected bureaucrat are we going to choose next? This one really got under my skin.
Has the White House contacted you about the continuity of government?
No, they haven't, but that is an ongoing, not with the White House, but with the military, quite frankly, in terms of the...
Listen to it.
About the continuity of government.
No, they haven't, but that is an ongoing, not with the White House, but with the military, quite frankly, in terms of the, or some officials in the government. But that, let us just all pray for the president's health. Thank God the vice.
Boy, did she get off that topic quick when she realized she let that cat out that bag. Oh my God, these people get on my nerves. Listen, you got to hear it one more time. You have to.
For the presidency, has the White House contacted you about the continuity of government?
No, they haven't, but that is an ongoing, not with the White House, but with the military, quite frankly, in terms of the, or some officials in the government. But that, let us just all pray for the president's health. Thank God the vice president has tested negatively, and the second lady as well. So again, that continuity of government is always in place.
For a second.
That continuity of government is always in place. Always in place. No, she wasn't talking about Biden.
Second in line for the presidency, has the White House contacted you about the continuity of government?
No, they haven't, but that is an ongoing, not with the White House, but with the military, quite frankly, in terms of the, or some officials in the government. But that, let us just all pray for the president's health. Thank God the vice president has tested negatively, and the second lady.
That was from 2020. Yep. Oops. Huh.
So what president was they talking about again?
They're talking about Trump, my love. They were talking about Trump.
With the Biden transition team, and if not,
when
at what
COVID.
point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Hi. Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Did y'all hear what he just said? This was after Biden stole the election. This is right around the January 6th nonsense, right? When Trump said, peacefully walk over there, tell them we know what they're doing. We're not going to tolerate it. It's America. You can't just come up with 20 million votes in the middle of the night. It's not happening. And listen to what he says.
To engage with the Biden transition team, and if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Hi.
Yeah.
The State Department currently.
So, it is what it is, ain't it? I'm just telling you guys. Hey, Miss Morty, thank you for the Cash App. I just got it. You're an angel. I love you. All right, couple more, guys, and I'm going to bed. I got a husband in there that has been an angel, allowing his wife to research all this all day long. We went to eat dinner earlier. Somebody was joking about the table. The table was all off balance. He literally had to hear me discuss how we would protect our home. If you guys have not gone and watched our video, What Could Go Wrong, Tannerite and Military, you need to go see what we do for fun around here. And you need to take some of the things that we do on our property, because Sam's about saving that money. I'm not in debt, so I'm not using credit cards. What's your hand up for?
Tannerite is just a target. That is all it is.
He said tannerite is just a target. That's all it is. It's illegal to buy.
It's a sonic boom top target. It's legal. It's not a normal explosive. It's not like C4. It's legal. You have to use it correctly.
Have to use it correctly. But there's so many things you can use it for home protection, and that is all I can say. We fenced our yard. We have a home security system. We have solar panels. We're on well water. We trained our dogs. Guys, continuity of government means if something happens to Trump, the shadow government will step in and we will not know who is for the Constitution and who is against it. I'm going to have to pray about it. How are we supposed to know? Thank you, friend. All right, so let me let you guys hear Vivek Ramaswamy.
January 6th.
Tell me, Mr. Patel, what due diligence did you do to find out who was in the choir before you promoted their beautiful music? These people assaulted law enforcement. What due diligence did you do?
Senator, I didn't record it myself.
So you did no due diligence
Thank
before
you for
promoted this song
for the
by
cash.
these
Thank
violent
you.
felons. Is that what you're telling us?
The super
Senator,
thanks. Thank you.
I did not record that myself.
So you're being considered for director of the FBI. And here you did no diligence to find out whether people you were associating with now the President of the United States in song were convicted of attacking police officers. Is that who we want running the FBI? I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them.
Go
I
for
want you to
that.
look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it.
How
I've
proud you are.
never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women.
Oh, yeah,
as
Cash
you know,
Patel. Thank you, Shelley.
my entire
Clarified it
life.
in song,
And I did
Mr.
not
Patel.
make a single dime out of
Clarified it
it.
in song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that
Let me ask
answer.
you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr.
Yes
Schiff,
or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
Ooh,
If
what?
you were the FBI director, and
Yeah,
you promoted a
Cash. I
song
know.
of
Sorry.
someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff, I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16
And
years
yet
of
you
government
did all these
service.
things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You can say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters. It's what you did that matters. Well, let me ask you about something else that you did, Mr. Patel. Did you claim that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago? Did you claim that?
In what proceeding?
To the public, ever? Did you tell anyone that Donald Trump declassified all the documents at Mar-a-Lago?
From publicly available information, President Trump issued a declassification order on a variety of
No,
materials.
I'm just asking you, did you tell the public, did you tell anyone, did you make the claim that Donald Trump had declassified those hundreds of classified documents that were at Mar-a-Lago? Did you make that claim
From
publicly?
my best of my recollection, I said President Trump issued a declassification order to a large number of documents.
Yeah, and were you present when he declassified all the Mar-a-Lago documents?
All I'm
Senator,
telling you
I'm not saying
guys
he-
is they're fighting every person Trump is trying to put in office. They don't want them because these people, Cash Patel, Tulsa Gabbard, they are not deep state. Have they had run-ins with globalists? Have they worked for companies? Yes. Folks, you can't get that high in politics and make that kind of money and not have run in the same circles as some of the worst people in the world. That's it. It's gonna happen, my friends. Okay, so let's keep going. I really do want to finish up so my hubby can get some rest.
Congratulations, everyone.
Oh my God.
Already reached the concentration camp stage.
Y'all can't help but spread false information, bro.
Trump announced just about an hour ago that he's preparing the facility at Guantanamo Bay for 30,000 migrants.
I'm about to yell in 3,
I love this guy.
2, 1. He is not sending legal immigrants to a camp. Read. Why don't you guys read? All you guys do is read headlines. He said, and quoted, the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people will be sent there. Like the ones who came here illegally and did horrendous crimes, like doing unspeakable things to kids. Why do I have to keep on coming on here correcting y'all? And the only reason I'm correcting you is because you have my migrant parents scared. Every day, my mom or one of my family members that are citizens now keep calling me saying, oh my God, they're saying Trump is going to do this to us. It's saying that our citizenship is going to be revoked. And I got to keep telling them, stop listening to y'all on TikTok. Please stop spreading false information and putting legal migrants or people that have become citizens in a panic. Now, we can argue that we should not have to pay for a whole prison for people that are already here illegally doing illegal things. Because that's the case, where they came from should put them in jail for doing the illegal things. You guys get all details and just read headlines.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me tell you guys, as I saw somebody in comments made a comment, let me address these real quick. They said tariffs are not going to be good for Americans. Okay, so who told you that? Mainstream media? A social media influencer? I'll put all this stuff in description for you guys when this is over. So who told you tariffs were bad for America? Economists? Professors from college? 20-year-olds?
Really listen to a 20-year-old.
No, it's not another tax on us. America used to tariff everything that came in this country. American-made products were the best in the world. They lasted forever. They were quality. Even the poor people in America had stuff that they could leave to their children. How many of you inherited furniture from your grandparents, your great-grandparents, or your parents because it was so well made? That's right. There was no income tax. So you know what we did? We took tariffs away to help other countries, and so that cheap corporations could take their businesses overseas, make cheap goods, ship it back to America with no tariff. Then Americans got income taxes. Then Americans got cheap goods. But y'all just keep on believing all these people screaming, tariffs are going to raise the cost of vegetables. Oh my God, if you get rid of the illegal aliens, who's going to pick the vegetables? Me. Amen, Stephen. Me. That's who's going to pick the vegetables. Because I'm not lazy. That's right. Y'all know I'm going to do this Karen mess. I understand your concern and I want you to ask questions, but I also need you to use discernment. Why did tariffing the entire world work for America for so long? And we were the wealthiest nation in the world. We quit putting tariffs on other countries so that corporations could get rich. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. Then don't buy cheap goods from overseas. Buy American made. Start a business. I mean, I don't know what y'all want. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot have, you can have income tax and cheap goods. Or you can get rid of the income tax and give breathing room to middle-class working Americans. Because if you are not aware, the child tax credit is a welfare system through the IRS. In other words, Stephen and I know people where we live that work 6 months of the year. That's it, and that's all, baby. 6 months out of the year. They work just long enough to pay a few $100s into the IRS, the federal tax system. Then they file. They literally claim kids that are not their own, so they get that child credit tax money in, and they split it with the parents of the kids. Happens all around me. It's a welfare system. So if you get rid of income tax, you got a whole section of the lower class of Americans freaking out because they're not going to get their welfare check at the end of the year. But for people like me and Steven, that means I don't owe the IRS $3,800 at the end of the year, right? It's exactly right. It's money in the middle class pocket. So you put tariffs on imports into America. You get rid of income tax. You're killing two birds, one stone. But let me tell you something. It's about the money. So if mainstream media is saying it's a bad idea, then it's obviously a good idea. That's all I'm asking you guys. If you don't own a company, if you don't work in agriculture, don't ever come with this, well, you need illegal aliens to pick the vegetables nonsense with me, because I could go on for hours about how bringing illegal aliens into America to pick the vegetables has pushed the cost of vegetables through the roof and caused diseases to spread. I can prove it.
Did they poop out in the field?
Bingo, baby. It's about the money. You think they're going to put bathrooms for illegal aliens? Are you kidding? They think of them as slaves. You guys aren't, some of y'all haven't lived long enough. You don't remember in the 80s and 90s when people were getting hepatitis A from strawberries from California because illegal migrants were pooping and peeing on the strawberry plants. Now, I know none of this is popular, and I know none of this is like a comfortable topic for many Americans because I'm really making you think. But I'm telling you, you're seeing it through the lens of the only perspective you've ever had. Why don't you go talk to American manufacturing businesses and ask them how they feel about putting tariffs on imports, and listen to somebody in the business world, not somebody that's paid in the university, because we all know they're left-leaning. Anybody that thinks tariffs are a bad idea? I don't know. I guess we all have our own opinions, and we're all welcome to them, right? That's the beauty of America. All right. So did I have anything else for you guys? I thought I did. Where's it at? Oh, here it is. Yep. Last one for the night, folks.
Truth, continuous conflict between the deep state and human awakening. Why is the disclosure process, disclosing secret truths, taking so much longer than anticipated, you ask? In actuality, it happens differently for each person based on their awareness level, and those levels vary greatly, I assure you. Some people's journey begins when they start to doubt their personal circumstances or financial stability. Some people have a far higher level of consciousness and are acutely aware of the enormous changes occurring not just on our planet, but also throughout mankind. Unfortunately, there are still not many persons in this latter category. A sizable portion of the population is beginning to awaken, though, and there is a developing middle ground. These people have started to learn of the deep state's covert objectives, which include population control and digitalization ambitions. What's intriguing now is that this knowledge isn't only whispered in the dark anymore. The mainstream media is beginning to cover it. People start to reflect when they come across it, not only about their own future, but also about the sort of world they want to leave for their children. This gradual change in consciousness is essential. Making sure mankind is prepared to confront the realities is more important than merely revealing them. Let's examine why this process is important and what it implies for each of us in more detail. Fortunately, there is still a generation on the planet that upholds moral standards. These are the people who can now serve as a potent spark for change because of their discontent with the policies of the elite. This is an important time because it gives them a chance to transform their annoyance into a greater comprehension of the actual state of the world. Giving them the big picture and elucidating the underlying reasons behind their difficulties is crucial. Many individuals are reluctant to leave their comfort zones, particularly when things appear secure or simple. However, people start to have questions when the world's problems start to directly impact them. They are interested in the reasons behind the current state of affairs. This is the point at which the change starts. These people can awaken to a wider viewpoint gradually, beginning with basic facts and working their way up to more intricate concepts. As individuals make the connections, they will become more conscious and understand that the solution is to eliminate the faulty systems that are initially producing the issues, not merely to safeguard their own welfare. This is a potent change in awareness. Although it begins with individual issues, it may spur group action and open the door to a society that is more woke and just. The moment is right to channel this energy and lead mankind to significant transformation.
Now, you could see that
conflict
as a bunch of New Age nonsense. But I see it's the right time for people to be spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, right before I get off, I saw this and somebody said, oh, the taxes are voluntary. You don't have to pay them.
Ooh.
Thank you. Amen, Stephen. I got my husband doing everything legal. I own everything. We own our property, our home, our vehicle, our business. There's no debt. We don't pay our taxes. They come in and hit us with late fees, fines, and a lien against our property. That's where they start. That's not where they stop. That's just where they start. Now, I could fight them if I had millions of dollars and the inclination to do so, but the chances are I'm going to lose. So I'm going to trust Trump to tariff every stinking thing that comes in this country and take away my income tax because I'm going to do it the legal way. See, Americans, we want to cut corners. We want everything cheap, cheap, cheap because we've been broke for so long, baby. It ain't your fault. Our country has been struggling for nigh on 25 years hard. People have forgotten what true prosperity looks like. This is a land of milk and honey. We have more natural resources than any other nation under our feet. There is no reason to be importing oil. There is no reason to be importing manufactured cheap Chinese goods that come over full of toxins that are killing our babies with the baby food and baby formula. Y'all don't want to get me on this rant, dude, because I'm telling you right now, tariff everything. Stop importing everything. Will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Put on your big girl panties, zip up your boots, get off your honey, and remember, you come from revolutionaries, baby. We built this country out of a nothing. Every one of us have got family with sweat and tears and blood in the soil on this. This is ours. Bring back mom and pop shop, brings back our local farmers markets, build regional food hubs. Why are we importing meat from other countries? Countries whose people are starving are sending us meat that is diseased and eradicated with radiation. Why? We have the best cattle in the world right now. You know how I know? China stole all the genetics of our cattle, our goats, and our chickens. So when you're talking about bird flu, you better look at China because they're going to use bioterrorism against us and wipe out our cattle next. This is not a game. It's real life. Stop being cheap, America. It's going to get hard, but it is either fight now or give your country up. I'm done. It's bedtime. Love you guys. God bless America. God bless Trump. Quit being weenies. We're going to take this country back. Love you guys. Love you. Fight or lose.